What's up guys, Random Razor here with another product review video to share with you guys today. And today we are going to check out DeWalt's latest and greatest rear wheel drive flex volt 60 volt lawnmower. So a quick intro with the DeWalt mowers. You can skip this part if you want, but long story short, DeWalt lawnmowers have been a bit of a mixed bag ever since they were first released back in the mid-2010s. Their first gen lawnmower was met with a bit of criticism due to its lackluster performance and terrible battery life. Fast forward to 2019-2020, DeWalt launched their second generation set of lawnmowers. And although they were a step up from the original model, by that point, many other brands were releasing their own version of a cordless lawnmower. So by the time DeWalt launched theirs, there really wasn't anything that stood out about them other than the fact that they're on the DeWalt ecosystem. I myself owned the rear wheel drive second generation lawnmower for 3 years, and although it's been a good mower, it wasn't anything great, but it wasn't anything terrible either. It was just a typical average cordless lawnmower. Now my experience with the lawnmower has been pretty much okay for the last 3 years. I ran into a couple issues with it. It likes to bog down quite a bit if you leave the grass too long. And the paint quality underneath the lawnmower really is not that great. They use a very, very cheap paint, and that resulted in a lot of peeling and chipping to the point where the steel deck is now exposed and rusting. So that's part of the reason why I was in the market for a new one this year. Now fast forward to 2024 last year, DeWalt introduced their third generation lineup of lawnmowers, fully redesigned from the ground up, and you think DeWalt finally nailed it, but unfortunately they had a big recall on all their mowers to the point where that pretty much tarnished DeWalt's image on their lawnmowers for this generation of lawnmowers, to say the least. Now for 2025, DeWalt launched their latest and greatest mower, so this is technically still part of the third gen lineup, but this is just a new fourth model introduced alongside with the 3 other ones, and that is their 60 volt rear wheel drive lawnmower. So now let's unbox this and see if DeWalt finally brought us a really good lawnmower for the market. After 3 generations and a multitude of backlash, maybe, just maybe, DeWalt got this one right. All right, let's break the seal. All right, so I think this whole thing needs to come out. Pretty sure this is easier to take out like this. It just doesn't want to come out. There we go. So here's the bag, which I had difficulty pulling out first. All right, so there's a little button right here that you pull and it locks the handle. So that way you can go from the folded position and up. So this here would be the side chute that goes on the back. I always mulch my grass, so probably won't use that too much, let alone the bag. And this here is our 2 12 amp hour batteries, which are concealed in this box. So basically these things right here. So the mower is pretty much fully assembled. You don't really need to do anything unless you want to attach the bag and the side chute, but obviously that's just optional. But everything else is pretty much set to go. All right, so let's take a quick overview of this thing so you guys can see the quality and close-up of this lawnmower, starting off with the bottom. So I'm gonna pull this thing down. If I can do it with one hand and holding the camera. So here's the underside. The paint job on these newer mowers is much, much better. The quality of the paint on the bottom is the same on the top. You can see here it's a 4-bladed design versus the 2 on the previous gen. So it's pretty much up to par in regards to the number of blades like a lot of the other brands like Ego. And it's a very, very smooth bottom. There's a couple screw holes which might be a bit of a pain to scrape grass off, but a lot better than the outgoing generation. All right, so back on top here we got the front wheels. They're pretty plasticky wheels, just like the old model and pretty much every other battery-powered lawnmower brand. The rubber part here, it is the actual separate piece. It's like a really hard rubber with a good amount of traction on it. And you got some bolts here. They are, I believe they're ball bearing design. So you can spin this. Yep, they're definitely a ball bearing design. Nice and smooth. This front section here is plastic. Got the DeWalt logo, rear wheel drive, dual blade system. And on the side here, we got this large metal lever that attaches the front and rear wheels so that you can adjust it up and down, hence the spring. So moving on, this is where the motor is concealed, plastic design, 60 volt max. This is where you would put the battery. Right here, we got the, whoops. So we got some more manuals, and we got the safety key switch there. Here's a quick look at the other side here. So I was wondering where the lever to adjust the wheels were. So I'm going to set my camera down, you guys can see how it works. A very, very simple mechanism. Just grab it and it pulls the whole thing up or down. Here's it from another view as well. So again, very, very easy system to move up and down. All right, moving towards the back here. So we got this part here is part of the side chute. Mostly black plasticky construction. This here is a knob to switch from one battery to the other. So it does hold 2 flex volt batteries, but it uses them one at a time. So how it works is that when the one battery dies, you just flip the switch and go on the other. I think this is a nice method because on the old DeWalt mower that I have, it uses 2 batteries at the same time. But if one of the battery dies and the other one still has juice in it, it won't run. You have to have both of them charged. So this one here is much better because if one battery dies, you can just switch over to the other without having to put a new battery in, just turn this little switch here. So I think that's it for the back side. On the very rear portion here, we got some whole bunch of warning labels. You pull this up, this is where you can attach your side chute or your bag. There should be a plug in here that you need to remove. So there's a plug, and if you want to use the bag, you have to take this out. So pretty simple. If you're mulching, just leave it in there. And of course, you have the little rubber strip on the back side. It's a chintzy piece of rubber, nothing special about it. Now moving on, we have the handles. So I believe these are made of just some sort of basic galvanized metal with a silver powdered finish on them. Now to extend the handle up, so this is the fold up position. You just press this button here again, and it locks that into place. So here's a first person view of the mower. I gotta say, I like the gray and the black a lot more than the yellow that the 20 volt lineup has. So aesthetically, it's a pretty nice looking mower. Now the handles, I mean, they're a little bit flimsy, but when you push down, they're pretty firm. That's partly because of the mechanisms and stuff to allow you to have that kind of fold up space-saving design. That being said, it does feel a little bit sturdier than the second generation mower that I have from them. All right, last but not least is the top portion of the DeWalt mower. So these rubber grips, they're very soft, nice and grippy. I like that. And the cool thing about this is that it's actually kind of engraved inside the handles. When you pull the lever up, it kind of snugs itself against the handles. So it's a little bit more, I guess, comfortable to hold. Here we have the paddles that engage and disengage the wheels. So unlike my old model, this third generation model has separate electric motors for the wheels. So in the old model, it ran off the motor that runs the blades. But on the newer model here, it has a separate electric motor for the wheels. So it does run quite a bit faster. It does sound like a Hot Wheels, but otherwise, I think it's a better system. The paddles themselves are just plastic, nothing special. I was a little bit worried they might break on my old mower because it's a very similar plasticky design, but they haven't broken, so this should last you quite a bit. Okay, so put the battery in, that way we can see the control panel a little bit better. There's a safety key switch right here. I like this idea, especially if you have kids. Okay, I just figured out. So the only way this control panel lights up is when you pull this back. You can see here we have our battery level indicator light. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LED intervals. A couple warning lights here. These are different modes. Right now we're set on automatic, so it'll automatically sense when it needs to increase or decrease the speed of the mower. And over here is a little toggle switch for the speed of the wheels. So 1 being slow, 6 being really, really fast. Just to give you guys an idea, here's 1, and here's 6. Before we test this out, one thing we want to test out is a safety switch. So if we pull this out, this shouldn't turn on. All right, that's good, because that's one of the reasons why the other mowers were recalled last year, and that is a safety key not working. Now the LED lights, for those of you wondering, they automatically turn on when you pull the lever, which you can see here. So it seems like they turn on whether you like it or not. So to activate the actual mower, you pull the lever back, which ignites all your controls, and you press this button here. The previous gen was actually opposite of that. You had to hold the button and then pull the lever back, but this is a little bit more intuitive. Well, my neighbors might hate me, but let's cut the grass in the dark. Oh, the first time we bogged down. Let's see what happened. That was definitely a rough patch of grass. I do have it on its lowest setting. You can bump it up a little bit. Actually, second lowest setting, so this would be the third. Cool about this is I can use this thing with one hand and hold the camera. I couldn't do this with my other mower. Not that it's something I do every time. Now we can roll this back. Do I recommend mowing at night? It's actually doable thanks to that LED light, but I'm being stung by a whole bunch of mosquitoes. So we're gonna skip ahead and do the rest during the day. Ah, what the heck, let's try a darker spot. I could never mow in the dark before, but now So I hope you guys enjoyed that nighttime footage of using this lawnmower. Part of the reason why I got this was because of the LED light. Standard feature on most premium end mowers, but definitely newer for DeWalt. Now let's get some daytime footage of cutting some grass. Here's a quick look at the speed settings. So if you want to activate just the wheels, you just push this, so you don't have to pull this lever back. To control the speed, like I showed you guys earlier, this is a little dial here. I do wish it was bigger because it's a little bit, it's hard to get a good grip on it. But here's number 1. And then here's 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops, and let's dial it all to 6. Didn't like that. Didn't like this patch either. So I'm finding that if you hit it like a really thick patch, you just gotta go at it slower. Oops. I'm pretty sure my battery's dead. All right, so my battery's pooped. Let's switch it over. So initially thought when the mower kept bogging down, it might be due to the thicker patches there. But I think what's happening is when the battery gets like to level 1, so barely any charge left, it gets weaker and then the mower doesn't have enough juice to really plow through the thicker grass. So I think that's the reason why I bogged down a couple times there. I was getting on its last leg. So I just switch over to the battery number 2, and it should be enough to do the rest of the lawn. All right, let's finish off this last bit of grass here. Let's see about doing a quick stress test right over there. See if you can take out some of that really tall set of, it's not even grass, it's weeds. If I go at it slow, it could do it. I mean, it's not designed for this level of tall grass, but it can actually tackle it, which is pretty nice. A lot of leftovers, and I probably should have the side chute going for this tall grass, but I can't do it. Pretty much concludes the lawn cutting for this property here. It's not a huge property by any means, but I mean, cut the back, cut a bit of the side there, the other side and the front lawn that you guys saw last night, and I still got, according to this, 3 bars left on the second battery. So yeah, I'd say 2 batteries, 2 12 amp hour batteries are more than enough. Now these batteries here are actually from my old DeWalt lawnmower, so they already had 3 years of use. So imagine the new ones would be no problem. I thought I would never use the max speed feature on the wheels, but if you're like finished cutting the grass and you're halfway across the lawn and you just want to roll this thing back, having the extra speed is actually nice. Alright, so overall guys, what do I think about this lawnmower, at least for the first use? Well, I got a lot of experience with DeWalt mowers, as I mentioned earlier. I got a 3-year-old model sitting right there. And this is certainly a big step up, a very big step up. It's not like a minute difference. This is certainly a fairly big improvement over the previous generation DeWalt lawnmower. So here's a quick comparison between the second gen rear wheel drive DeWalt lawnmower and the third generation one that we have here. They're definitely a little bit different. Like I mentioned, completely redesigned from the ground up. This one's a little bit more solid. This one here has a lot more wobble to it. Not a big deal, but it definitely seems like a step up in terms of being a solid machine. My issues with the second generation model here is just for the price point, it didn't seem worth the premium over some of the other brands out there on the market. So when this thing was out, you had the Milwaukee M18, you have Ryobi's, which was, I guess, a more affordable option to this. And they also had Ego's options too, which all of them had some extra features over this one here for similar price points. Performance-wise, only a couple things that I've had issues with, and that was just, it likes to bog down quite a bit. So when you hit thicker patches of grass, it just turns off. Where this one, it didn't do much. A couple times it did, but then the last few times it did was because the battery was starting to die and it was getting weak. So that's why that happened with that one. But the other pet peeve I have with this one here is if you take a look at the underside, you can see here a lot of the yellow paint has peeled off. So it's starting to rust, which I'm not a big fan of because it really shouldn't have worn this much to this level. So now that the steel deck is exposed, it's going to start rusting now. So that's why I really considered buying or upgrading, because I want to sell this one while it's still a solid piece. Also, there's a lot of nooks and crannies on this one here. You got that big plastic piece right there. That's not flush with the inside, so a lot of grass gets trapped back there. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt thing to clean. And then on the other side here, you can see a lot of holes, nooks and crannies. Whereas on the new one here, shouldn't do this with the batteries and the safety key in, but here's a quick look. You can see this is a lot more streamlined, so it's much easier to clean. So suffice to say, I wasn't planning on getting this until DeWalt launched this year, and I figured 2025, you know, this is after their first, second, and third generation models. This has to be their most fine-tuned, you know, up-to-date lawnmower that they got. Everything that they learned should hopefully go into this particular model here. There shouldn't be any issues with it. So that's why I decided to give DeWalt one more chance, because originally I was going to get this one here, the Ego, the aluminum model. They make really good mowers. A lot of people are happy with them. They didn't have as much of a mixed bag of reviews versus the DeWalt ones. Anyways, going back to this model here, it's a big step up from the old one, like I mentioned. I'm really happy with some of the new features of it. Even things that this one had, like the ability to adjust the height with one lever. This is a lot more stiffer to use, whereas this one here, it's a lot more effortless. I can do this with one hand, whereas that one I need to hold the mower with both hands. The LED light's a nice feature that I mentioned earlier for nighttime mowing. The wheels here, so this has a separate electric motor for the wheels. Night and day difference compared to that one too. The electric motors runs these wheels a lot faster and more consistently versus that one there, because that one ran off a pulley that used the motor for the blades to run the wheels. Even the control panel here. So again, very big upgrade. The lever mechanism here is actually, it feels more premium. I know it's a weird thing to mention, but it just feels more solid versus this one here, which feels really weak and flimsy. Same with the, so this is the lever that activates the powered wheels. This one here, whoops, it's still on. Feels a lot more solid, a little bit more nimble to use. The plastic feels a little bit more sturdier too. Yeah, this one feels a lot more flimsy, whereas this one here, a little bit more solid. And of course the control pad, so you have a lot more information here versus this one where you had nothing. You just had your power button here, your controls. The only thing that tells you about the battery, oh, I'm missing a screw. How did that happen? Anyways, yeah, the battery light here, it turns red to let you know your batteries are dead, which would be quite obvious. Where here, you actually have some battery indicator lights to let you know the level that you're at through 5 LED indicators. One final thing I like about this compared to the old model is that I can turn this on with one hand. So you just push this back and you hit the button. And you can also operate the wheels with one hand too, because I was able to cut the lawn holding my camera while using the mower. Whereas this one here, how it works is you have to press this button and then you have to pull this back, and then you can activate your wheels. But I can't do that with one hand, so you have to use one hand on here and then another hand to pull this back to activate it. So it's a minor thing, but the fact that I can operate this with one hand, I think it's pretty nice. The only thing I would say I like about the older model is the fatter wheels. So with the rear wheels, it doesn't matter. This thing has a ton of grip thanks to the narrower design, as well as the, I guess the texture of the tires here are just something that grips to the grass more. But it also makes it a lot more difficult to turn left and right because the front wheels really like to dig into the ground, so it's very, very grippy. Whereas with the fatter wheels, because they're flatter design, it makes it easier to turn left and right. So it's a minor thing to mention, but I think if DeWalt made the front wheels have a flatter texture, that way it's a lot more easier to swing it left and right without having to lift the front end over and then turn. So aside from that, performance-wise and my expectations out of this one here, this is a very, very nice upgrade from the older model. So for those of you DeWalt users who have the first or second generation DeWalt mower, this 60 volt model here, the rear wheel drive model, is certainly something to really consider if you're thinking of upgrading from your older DeWalt mower. So things I like about the DeWalt lawnmower in summary. First off, I like the deck. It's got a good, strong steel deck and a very nice high quality paint finish on the front and the underside. The underside here is smooth and very easy to clean. The LED light in case you get caught later in the evening or in the dark. It's got a 2 battery design, but the mower uses 1 battery at a time so that you can utilize a full charge for each battery. The handles in the control area are very nicely designed. You can operate it with 1 hand. And the controls themselves feel premium and solid. The control pad is nice and bright, shows you a good amount of information such as the battery life. And I do like how DeWalt carried over this key feature from the older lineup of lawnmowers, where this can shut off the entire mower even though there are batteries installed. The foldable handle is very easy to use. To unlock it, you just press this, pull it over, lift it up, and you're ready to go. To fold it back, push the same button. This thing slides down, make sure it's locked into place. Automatically folds right over, ready for storage. I like the electric motor for the rear wheel drive wheels. As you saw during the demo, they're quick to start, consistent, and very fast. The cut quality of the DeWalt mower seems good, but I'm not too picky on how well my grass is cut. Both of the DeWalt batteries that are included with this mower are more than enough to do a typical suburban lawn, the front, sides, and back with extra charge to spare. Like most battery-operated lawn care equipment, significantly quieter than their gas counterparts. And finally, I gotta say, I really like this gray color scheme versus the all yellow like the other DeWalt mowers. Now for things I don't like about the DeWalt lawnmower. First off, it's lightweight. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but because it's lighter weight, you will notice, especially if you're coming from a heavier gas counterpart, it likes to bounce quite a bit on uneven lawns. Second, it comes with only 1 blade. Ego comes with like 3 different blades, this one here, only 1. Third thing, the wheels are narrow. So as I showed you guys earlier, the wheels are super grippy, but because of its narrow design for the front wheels, it makes it difficult to slide left and right. Although the LEDs are nice, I do wish they were a little bit brighter and had more spread, similar to the Milwaukee M18. The battery cover, which you can see is right here, won't stay open on its own, so it makes it a little bit cumbersome to slide the batteries in and out without the cover constantly hitting your hands. It's actually the same con for my old DeWalt lawnmower, which they for some reason didn't want to fix on the new one here. The last thing I want to mention while we're still on the batteries is this little switch. So when one battery dies, you have to manually turn it over. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's a simple switch, so nothing can really go wrong with it, but it would be nice if you could do it automatically. So in summary, there are certainly more pros than cons, and the cons aren't anything that I would say are deal breakers, to the point where I can conclude that yes, finally, I think DeWalt has brought a good lawnmower to the market that will impress. Compared to other brands, I think DeWalt has finally put something that can rival Ego, Toro, Milwaukee with a unique looking mower with premium features that you would expect at this price point. So for those of you who are in the DeWalt ecosystem, this lawnmower might be finally something you can add to your tool belt that is also yellow and black. That being said, for anyone who is just looking for a stand-alone lawnmower, I would advise Ego or Milwaukee as an alternative first, or Ryobi for an affordable option. I know you guys are thinking, didn't I just praise this DeWalt lawnmower for half the video? And yes, I did. It is a good lawnmower. But the main thing it's got going for it is the batteries. That's the only reason one would consider getting it, to add more batteries to your lineup of DeWalt tools and have backups in case these included batteries aren't enough. If you're not in a dedicated battery system of some sorts and you just want a standalone lawnmower to start, I recommend Ego because they're good at making lawn care tools, and they're one of the first major brands to push battery-operated lawn equipment on top of a full range of mowers to choose from to fit your price point from high to low. I also recommend Milwaukee because that thing is an absolute tank. A lot of people are happy with it, and it's something that is really premium and rivals the gas models given its feedback that I've seen on reviews. And lastly, I recommend Ryobi as they offer more affordable options compared to DeWalt and the other two brands I mentioned. It's backed by a good name, and a lot of people are happy with it for the price point. In short, DeWalt makes a good lawnmower now, but if you're not in the DeWalt battery ecosystem and don't plan on being in it, I would strongly recommend looking at those other three brands. In conclusion, since the first part of the video, I've used the DeWalt mower several times, and it's such a joy to use compared to the older model. I'm not worried about the battery life or it bogging down frequently. I'm content with the cut quality, and the extra features makes cutting the lawn quicker and somehow more enjoyable compared to my past DeWalt mower. Thus, for those of you who are in the DeWalt ecosystem and want to add a battery-powered lawnmower to your arsenal of tools, you finally can't go wrong with DeWalt's new 60-volt dual battery rear-wheel drive lawnmower. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions or comments about the DeWalt 60-volt lawnmower, ask away in the comment section there down below. Hit that like button as well, it helps me out, and I'll see you all in the next video.